The money of Rome, the fall of Rome. Imagine this. When you think about the fall of Rome, everyone imagines the same scenes. Barbarians at the gates, legions retreating, emperors being poisoned in their palaces. But empires don't vanish overnight, nor do they fall only from outside attacks. Real collapse always starts from within, and the force that accelerates that decay is money itself. Rome's fall wasn't just about wars or corruption. It was about the collapse of its money, and the lessons from that past still stand before every modern economy today. Because no matter who we are, we keep making the same mistake. If we just have a bit more money, everything will be fine. Rome's golden age and the power of money. Throughout history, Rome's greatest strength was a silver coin called the denarius. It was first minted around 200 BC, made almost entirely of pure silver. Soldiers were paid with it, traders demanded it, and everyone stored their wealth in it. The denarius wasn't just money. It was a symbol of trust in Rome itself. If the empire was strong, its money was strong. As long as people believed in Rome, they believed in the denarius. But managing such a great empire wasn't easy. Armies needed pay, roads had to be built, and wars never ended. When tax revenues couldn't keep up, emperors found an easy solution. They reduced the silver content in the coin. They'll never notice, they thought, but everyone did. The decay of money. Under the first emperor Augustus, the denarius was 95% silver. By the time of Caracalla, it had fallen to 50%. By the middle of the century, under Gallienus, the silver content had dropped below 5%. What was left was basically a bronze coin, covered with a thin layer of silver. People immediately realized the money in their hands wasn't real anymore. And once trust vanished, everything started to change. Prices rose. A measure of wheat that once cost 1 denarius now cost many times more. Soldiers demanded higher pay. Merchants refused to accept the coins. Some turned to gold. Others went back to direct trade. Rome's monetary system collapsed. But the emperors still believed that printing more money would fix the problem. Sound familiar? The crisis of the 3rd century. Between 235 and 284 AD, Rome went through 50 years of chaos. Invasions, plagues, civil wars, famine. Emperors were killed one after another. But the real culprit behind it all was the economy and the money. Taxes were collected in worthless coins. Farmers abandoned their land, and the trade system broke apart. The Roman government thought they found a fix by freezing prices. They issued a law called the Edict on Maximum Prices. They set fixed prices for thousands of goods. The punishment for disobeying was death. But did it work? Of course not. When money itself is worthless, you can't control prices. The result, the black market exploded, trade stopped, and people turned their backs on the state. No law could save a worthless coin. Eventually, Rome gave up. Constantine introduced a new coin called the solidus, made of pure gold. It lasted for centuries in the Eastern Roman Empire, but the Western Empire was already exhausted. The debasement of the denarius had become a disease eating Rome from within. And that disease destroyed the empire from the inside out. What does it tell us today? Simple. The destruction of money is the destruction of empires. Rome thought it could deceive its people. Today, modern nations do the same, printing money, changing interest rates, inflating away debt. But the result is always the same. The people pay the price, wealth disappears, trust collapses. Rome learned it the hard way. We're still taking the same test. History repeats because we don't change. Weimar Germany. After World War I, it was buried in debt. They printed money, inflation skyrocketed. A loaf of bread went from 1 mark to 200 billion marks. People brought their wages home in wheelbarrows. Savings vanished, and when society fell apart, radicals rose. The result: Hitler. Zimbabwe followed the same path. In 2008, annual inflation hit 89.7 sextillion%. Yes, you heard that right. Sextillion. Prices doubled every day. Eventually, they threw away their own currency and started using the US dollar. And what about us? In 1971, President Nixon ended the system that tied the dollar to gold. From that day on, the dollar has been backed only by trust. And guess what happened? Debt soared, money supply expanded, and inflation became normal. Today we may not need wheelbarrows, but we're all quietly getting poorer. What you could buy for $1 in 1971 now costs $6. The coins look the same, but they're empty inside. Governments know the trick well. They call inflation growth. They call rising wages prosperity. They call debt investment. But in reality, they're just stealing the value of our money and our savings, just like in Rome. The end of the global game. Rome's crisis belonged to one empire. Weimar's was national. Zimbabwe's was local. But today the entire world runs on one kind of money. Fiat currency, massive debt, and central banks ready to print at any moment. If a collapse comes, this time we'll all be inside it. And once again it will be the people who lose. Those living on salaries, pensions, and savings. What should we do? 1. Inflation isn't an accident. It's policy, a silent tax. 2. Real wealth isn't in paper. It's in land, skills, production, and resources. 3. Never say, "This system will last forever." The Romans thought so, the Germans did too, so did the Zimbabweans, and every one of them lived through the same story. History doesn't repeat, but it crushes those who fail to understand it. Rome's story isn't about bad emperors. It's about the abuse of power and the fragility of money. And that weakness is still with us today. History has already given the answer. We just need to listen.